Have you ever wondered which state, red or blue, would last longer during a zombie apocalypse? Everybody thinks red states should dominate a zombie outbreak because of more guns, more land, more self-reliance. But when you run the actual numbers on density, obesity, viral spread, and agriculture, the results get super messy fast. And what makes this analysis different is we're not talking about ideology. We're talking about cold, hard survival metrics. Population density, gun ownership, practical skills, climate, and whether your neighbor knows how to field dress a deer. But before we dive into which states live and which ones fall, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Here's where blue states face their biggest nightmare right out of the gate. Population density isn't just a number on a census form. It's the difference between a manageable outbreak and total societal collapse in 72 hours. States like New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut are packing between 700 and 1,200 people per square mile. Compare that to Montana's 7 people per square mile, Wyoming's 6, or Alaska's 1.3. Like, do the math. One infected person in Manhattan can potentially expose thousands in a single subway ride. One infected person in rural Montana might not see another human for days. What makes population density so deadly is the exponential spread factor. In dense urban environments, the zombie-to-human ratio skyrockets within hours. You're not dealing with isolated incidents. You're dealing with cascading failures across every system simultaneously. Public transportation becomes a death trap. Apartment buildings become vertical tombs. Evacuation routes clog instantly. The real horror isn't the zombies themselves, but the sheer mathematics of viral spread in confined spaces. By the time authorities recognize the threat, you've already got thousands of infected and millions of panicked people with nowhere to go. Red states, particularly those in the Mountain West and Great Plains, have a massive advantage here. Lower population density means slower spread, more time to react, more space to retreat, and critically, fewer total zombies to deal with. When your nearest neighbor is 2 miles away, an outbreak stays contained. When your nearest neighbor shares a wall with you, you're fighting for your life before you even know what's happening.
This is low-key one of the most underrated factors in zombie survival, and it's where states like Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Minnesota suddenly become S-tier survival zones. Cold climates aren't just uncomfortable, they're actively hostile to biological function. And unless we're dealing with some supernatural zombie variant, these things are still operating on biological principles. Frozen tissue doesn't move well. Extreme cold slows metabolic processes. Winter in International Falls, Minnesota, where temperatures regularly hit -30 degrees Fahrenheit, isn't just harsh for humans, it's potentially catastrophic for zombies. What makes cold climates so valuable is they buy you time. Time to fortify, time to plan, time to organize. A zombie horde that's a nightmare in July becomes a frozen statue garden by January. And here's the kicker. Humans can adapt to cold with proper gear and shelter. We've got technology, insulation, heating systems. Zombies, they're shuffling around in whatever they died in. The real genius of northern states is that they get a seasonal reset button. Every winter potentially culls the zombie population, giving survivors a chance to rebuild, resupply, and reinforce. Southern states, both red and blue, don't get this advantage. Year-round warm weather means year-round zombie activity. Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, these places never get a break. The undead don't hibernate. They don't slow down. They just keep coming. 365 days a year. And in humid climates, you're also dealing with faster decomposition, which sounds good until you realize that means more disease, more contamination, and more biohazard exposure for survivors.
Hands down, this is where red states dominate so hard it's almost unfair. Wyoming has 229 guns per 1,000 people. Alaska has 178. Montana has 141. These aren't just hunting rifles gathering dust. This is a culture of firearms ownership, maintenance, and practical use. Compare that to states like New York, 19 per 1,000, Rhode Island, 15, or Massachusetts, 15. The gap isn't just numerical, it's cultural and practical. But here's what people miss. Gun ownership isn't just about shooting zombies. It's about scavengeable weapons after society collapses. It's about spare parts, ammunition stockpiles, and a population that knows how to maintain and repair firearms. When your AR-15 jams in week 3 of the apocalypse, you need someone who can field strip it blindfolded. Red state gun culture means more gunsmiths, more reloading equipment, more spare parts, and more people who can teach others. That's a force multiplier that compounds over time. Blue states with strict gun control face a brutal reality check. Legal gun owners are fewer, ammunition is harder to stockpile legally, and the general population has less firearms training. By the time the outbreak hits, it's too late to learn. You can't take a weekend course in marksmanship when zombies are at your door. The real terror isn't just having fewer guns. It's having fewer people who know how to use them effectively under pressure.
This is where red state culture becomes an actual survival asset. Hunting, fishing, trapping, butchering, farming, mechanical repair, construction. These aren't hobbies in rural America. They're lifestyle skills passed down through generations. When the supply chain collapses and grocery stores are empty, knowing how to field dress a deer isn't quaint. It's the difference between eating and starving. States like Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, the Dakotas, and rural parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas have populations where these skills are common, not exceptional. What makes practical skills so critical is they enable self-sufficiency. You're not dependent on systems that no longer exist. You can hunt game, grow food, preserve meat, repair equipment, build shelter, and solve problems with limited resources. This is the prepper mentality taken to its logical conclusion. And while urban liberals might mock redneck culture, those same skills become priceless when civilization collapses. Like, who's laughing when the guy with a pickup truck, a rifle, and a working knowledge of animal husbandry is thriving, while everyone else is fighting over canned beans? Blue states, particularly coastal urban centers, have populations heavily specialized in service economy skills. You've got amazing software engineers, lawyers, marketers, financial analysts, none of which help you survive when the grid goes down. There's no app for gutting a fish. There's no Zoom meeting for learning to can vegetables. The skills gap is real, and it's devastating in a collapse scenario. This is uncomfortable, but we have to address it. Obesity rates directly impact survival in a zombie outbreak, and the data is brutal. States like West Virginia, 41%, Louisiana, 40%, Arkansas, 38%, and Mississippi, 38%, have the highest obesity rates in the nation. And yes, many of these are red states. This is where red states take a significant hit to their survival scores. What makes obesity so dangerous is it affects mobility, endurance, and overall health, all critical in a scenario where you might need to run, climb, fight, or travel long distances on foot. By the time the outbreak spreads beyond initial containment, obese individuals become easier targets. They can't outrun threats. They struggle with physical labor. They have higher rates of diabetes, heart disease, and other conditions that become death sentences when medical care collapses. And here's the darker reality. They become zombies faster, and those zombies are slower, creating a weird dynamic where early zombie hordes are less threatening but more numerous in high obesity areas. Blue states generally have lower obesity rates. Colorado, 25%, Massachusetts, 27%, California, 27%, and Hawaii, 25%, are among the leanest states. This gives them a mobility advantage that partially offsets other disadvantages. A fit population can evacuate faster, fight longer, and sustain physical labor necessary for survival. The real horror isn't just individual survival. It's that obesity rates affect community resilience. A community where 40% of people can't run a mile is a community that can't effectively defend itself
or relocate when necessary.
When we talk about surviving beyond the first year, agriculture becomes everything. States with strong farming cultures, agricultural infrastructure, and arable land have a massive long-term advantage. This is where the Midwest and Great Plains red states absolutely dominate. Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, the Dakotas, Montana, these are America's breadbasket states. They've got the land, the equipment, the knowledge, and the culture to produce food at scale. What makes agricultural capacity so critical is it enables community survival, not just individual survival. You can't rebuild civilization on scavenged canned goods. Eventually, you need to grow crops, raise livestock, and establish sustainable food production. Red states with farming traditions have populations that know crop rotation, soil management, irrigation, pest control, and animal husbandry. These aren't skills you can learn from YouTube when the internet's down. Blue states face a serious challenge here. California is a major agricultural producer, but it's heavily dependent on complex irrigation systems, migrant labor, and industrial farming methods that collapse without fuel and parts. New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. These states import the vast majority of their food. When supply chains fail, they're in immediate crisis. The real genius of agricultural red states is they can feed themselves and have surplus to trade, making them natural centers for rebuilding.
This is low-key hilarious, but actually important. States with higher concentrations of preppers, survivalists, and zombie media consumption are genuinely better prepared for collapse scenarios. And guess what? That's overwhelmingly red state territory. Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and rural areas across the South have thriving prepper communities. These people have been planning for societal collapse for decades. They've got bug-out bags, food stockpiles, water filtration, medical supplies, and detailed survival plans. What makes prepper culture valuable is it normalizes preparedness. In these communities, having 6 months of food storage isn't paranoid, it's prudent. Knowing multiple routes out of your area isn't crazy, it's common sense. This cultural mindset means when disaster strikes, people don't panic, they execute plans. By the time coastal urbanites are fighting over toilet paper, preppers are already fortified and self-sufficient. Blue states generally view prepper culture with skepticism or mockery. Urban populations are optimized for convenience and specialization, not self-sufficiency and redundancy. When the zombie outbreak hits, there's no cultural framework for response. People wait for government help isn't coming. They expect systems to restart that are permanently broken. The real terror isn't lack of resources, it's lack of mental preparedness for a world where all the rules have changed. Military bases and veteran populations provide crucial advantages: organization, logistics expertise, heavy weapons, and leadership experience. States like Virginia, North Carolina, Texas, Georgia, and California have significant military presence. This cuts across red-blue lines, but the advantage is real. What makes military assets so valuable is they provide the foundation for organized defense and eventual rebuilding. Bases have armories, fuel depots, medical facilities, and communication equipment. Veterans know tactics, discipline, and how to train civilians. In the chaos of an outbreak, military installations become natural rally points for survivors. The real genius of military presence is it provides the organizational structure necessary to coordinate large-scale defense and resource management. However, military bases also become targets. Large concentrations of people, resources, and weapons attract both survivors and zombies. And if the base itself becomes compromised, you've just created a heavily armed zombie horde. The advantage is significant, but not absolute.
Here's where everything changes. If we're dealing with slow, dumb Romero zombies, the strategies above work. But by the time zombies start running, 28 days later style, or showing intelligence, I Am Legend style, defenses must evolve dramatically. Simple barricades don't cut it anymore. You need layered defenses, redundant fallback positions, early warning systems, and mobile response capabilities. What makes evolving zombie threats so dangerous is they negate many traditional advantages. Fast zombies can catch even fit survivors. Smart zombies can breach simple fortifications. The real horror isn't just the zombies themselves, but the constant need to adapt faster than the threat evolves. States with military expertise, engineering talent, and innovative cultures have an advantage here. which actually helps some blue states. But ultimately, the fundamentals still matter. Low population density means fewer zombies regardless of their capabilities. Cold climates still slow biological function. Agricultural capacity still determines long-term survival. The advantages compound, they just require a more sophisticated application.
Hands down, the winners are Montana and Wyoming. These states combine every survival advantage: extremely low population density, cold climates, high gun ownership, strong hunting and agricultural cultures, prepper presence, and enough space to retreat indefinitely. They take hits on obesity rates and some infrastructure dependencies, but the fundamentals are so strong they overcome these weaknesses. By the time the outbreak reaches rural Montana, survivors have already established defensible positions with sustainable food sources. Alaska deserves special mention as a co-winner. The population density is the lowest in the nation. The climate is brutally hostile to zombies, and the culture is built around self-sufficiency. The challenges are isolation and limited agriculture. But for pure survival, Alaska is nearly unbeatable. If you can handle the cold and isolation, you can outlast any zombie threat. Idaho, the Dakotas, and rural areas of states like Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico also score extremely high. They've got the space, the skills, and the culture to survive long-term. Blue states face serious challenges, but they're not automatically doomed. Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine combine low population density with cold climates and strong community cultures. They lack the gun culture and prepper presence of red states, but they've got enough space and agricultural capacity to survive. Colorado, while politically purple, has excellent survival characteristics. The losers are clear: densely populated states regardless of politics. New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Florida, and California face catastrophic early losses due to population density. By the time authorities respond, the outbreak is already exponential. Urban centers become death traps. Millions die in the first weeks.
The real genius of this analysis is it reveals that survival isn't about politics. It's about geography, culture, and practical skills. Red states have significant advantages, but they're not guaranteed winners. Blue states face serious challenges, but they're not automatically eliminated. What makes the difference is the combination of factors: space to retreat, climate to slow threats, skills to sustain yourself, weapons to defend yourself, and the mental preparedness to adapt when everything collapses. Like, if you're in Manhattan when the outbreak hits, I don't care how fit or prepared you are, your odds are terrible. If you're on a ranch in Montana with a year's food supply, firearms, and practical skills, you're probably going to make it. The math is brutal, but it's honest. So, who lasts longer? Montana and Wyoming win. Alaska is the ultimate fallback, and if you're in a dense urban center anywhere, red or blue, you better have a plan to get out fast, because by the time the zombies arrive, it's already too late. But seriously, thank you for watching. Every subscription helps me dive deeper into survival scenarios. Hit that button and bell. Your support lets me keep breaking down these life or death movie moments.